If you have your Bibles, Genesis chapter 39. Genesis chapter 39. Since the first Sunday of this month, we have been in some way or another wrestling with the theme for this series entitled "The Mirror to Myself, Flawed but Faithful." Mirror to myself, I'm flawed but faithful. We've looked at persons in the Bible who God has used tremendously in spite of their flaws. In many ways, this has been a time of deliberation, a time of reflection, so that we can see we're not as bad as we think we are. That God has an uncanny way of using flawed, ordinary people to do extraordinary things. That's really the narrative that undergirds the entire biblical story. Ordinary people with all of their flaws, all of their insecurities, all of their failures, doing extraordinary things in the name of our great God. If you're at Genesis chapter 39, you can say amen. Amen. If not, you can say hold up. Genesis chapter 39. I'll commence at verse 1 as this Hebrew passage is translated into English in the New Revised Standard Version this way. Now Joseph was taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him down there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man. He was in the house of his Egyptian master. His master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord caused all that he did to prosper in his hands. So Joseph found favor in his sight and attended him, and he made him overseer of his house and put him in charge of all that he had. Verse number 7. Now Joseph was handsome and good looking, and after a while his master's wife cast her eyes on Joseph and said, "Lie with me." But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Look, with me here, my master has no concern about anything in the house, and he has put everything that he has in my hand. Even he, is not greater in this house than I am, nor has he kept back anything from me except yourself, because you are his wife. How then could I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" And although she spoke to Joseph day after day, he would not consent to lie beside her or to be with her. One day, however, when he went into the house to do his work, and while no one else was in the house, she caught hold of his garment, saying, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand and fled and ran outside. Verse 19. When his master heard the words that his wife spoke to him, saying, "This is the way your servant treated me," he became enraged. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. He remained there in prison. Verse 21. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love. For the time that is ours to share, I want to think on the thought surviving success. Surviving success. Surviving success. I'm not sure how you approach life, particularly as it relates to your catalog of successes and failures. And really, in many ways, life in its experimental nature is really a running series of successes and failures. Life is, in many ways, a combination, a complex combination of trial and error. Persons whose lives are so stringently ordered often find themselves disappointed, often find themselves unnerved and unsettled, because life really never happens the way you planned it. But life in its intrusive quality, life with its unpredictable nature, life with its unexpected twists and turns is really a series of successes and failures. There are some times that you feel as if life has propped you up and everything in the universe is seemingly bending towards your fulfillment. And then there are other times in life where everything in the universe, according to your own thinking, seems to be bending for your demise. But life in its essence, life in its most simplest iteration, life in its most simplest articulation is a running series of successes and failures. And the unique thing about life that I have discovered in my years of living is that sometimes success can be more hazardous than failure. For those of us who live life and live life boldly, those of us who claim our courage, those of us who walk in the authenticity of our being, those of us who hear the clarion call of God meeting our ears every single day, sometimes it is not our failure that retards our lives, but sometimes it's success that can become your hurdle. Sometimes it is success that can trip you up. Sometimes it is not failure that will hijack your ambitions and failure that will steal your joy, but sometimes it is success that will get in the way of you and where God is trying to call you. And then maybe I should poll the room and ask if you all know people who live in this kind of uneasy disposition, that the more success they have, the more foreign they become. That when they were living mired in their failures, when they were living in their own mediocrity, when they were living beneath the bar, living a self-undermining life, you could depend on them. You could count on them. You knew who they were. But the moment they had a little come up, the moment life shifted for them, the moment they got a job that now put them in a different tax bracket, the moment they got a new title in church, that they no longer have to sit in the pews, but they get to sit on the front row, the second row, or the third row, or they get to sit in the pulpit. You no longer know them. Have you all ever met people like that who have become a stranger to you overnight? You could have raised them, you could have been friends with them, you could even be married to them, but they become intoxicated by their success, so much so that they become strangers to you, strangers to themselves, but also strangers to God. That is the unexpected, unpredictable nature of people who love success more than they love themselves, or people who love success more than they love their Savior, that they allow their lives to be co-opted by the good in their life, that they never make the time to stand and live in the authenticity of who God is calling them to be. Sometimes, child of God, it is not failure that can sink your ministry. It is not failure that can compromise your call. It is not failure that can dismiss your journey with God, but sometimes it's success. Sometimes it's those moments of achievement. Sometimes those moments of progression. Sometimes those moments of promotion. Sometimes those moments where you feel as if everything is going right in your life, and the more things that are going right in your life, you start to schedule God out of your life. The more time things are going right in your life, you begin to pencil people who are important in, and you start putting in people who never had your best interest in mind in the first place. I have a funny feeling and a sneaky suspicion that I'm talking to a room full of people who know what it means to meet some pretenders, people who lose themselves because of the success they have. Can I pause right here just for a moment and let somebody know, if your identity is connected to your inventory, then you are one loss away from losing yourself and losing your life. Anybody in here know that if all you are is what you have, then there's not much to you to begin with. But I want to look at some people in this room today that can say, my life is bigger than where I work, and my life is bigger than the checks I take to the bank, are directly deposited. My life is bigger than who signs my checks. My life is bigger than the degree I have. My life is bigger than the community in which I live. Because sometimes I've learned the greatest enemy to my integrity is not my failure, but it is my success. And sometimes the greatest enemy of your discipleship is not what you do wrong, but what you do well. But I need somebody in here to know that, to understand that God does not care about your success. God cares about your faithfulness. America wants you to believe with its so-called dream, which is really a nightmare, that in order for you to live a full life, a whole life, a happy life, you have to have money, you have to have cars, you have to have the perfect image of what life is supposed to be. But you better watch out in life that you don't sacrifice your real self on the altar of success, because there are too many people who sacrifice their integrity on the altar of success, and they allow capitalism to eat them up because they live life wanting to have more. They live life needing more. But God says you need to fall in love with who you are individually before you start giving too much energy to the stuff you have. Can I say that again? If all you have is what you are, then there's not much to you. Your identity has to transcend your inventory. When you don't have much, you ought to still be able to be who you are. When you're broke, you ought to still be able to say your name with authority. When it does not look like life is going good for you, you ought to still be able to stand strong and say, I may not have much, but I know I am much, because my identity is not connected to my inventory, because God is not interested in the American dream, but God is interested in you being the you that he dreamt about when your mama gave birth to you. You need to stop acting like your calling is to be successful when your calling is supposed to be faithful. Anybody in here today that can say, I've been chasing success for too long, but God doesn't want me to be successful. God wants me to be faithful, and that means you cannot allow your life to be based on the marketplace. You cannot allow your life to be based on the economy. You cannot allow your life to be based on the job market. You cannot allow your life to be based on vacant positions in a church. But your life has to be connected to who God wants you to be, because the kingdom of God is about faithfulness. It's not about money. It's not about material attainment. It's not about wealth. It's not about building sizes. It's not about homes. It's not about degrees. It's not about titles. It's not about the pew you sit in church. But the kingdom of God is about faithfulness. Can you fail and get up and try it again? Can you lose and get up and try it again? I want to talk to some faithful people in here today that can say, I may not have much, but at least I have myself. At least I have a strong hold on who I am. At least I got Jesus. And as long as I have myself, and as long as I have Jesus, I don't need anything else compromising my faithfulness. In fact, that's how you find success in failure, when you're able to be faithful, when the controlling ideals of your life are not statuses, but stick-to-itiveness, not fortune, but faithfulness, not imminence, but endurance, not property, but patience, not prosperity, but identity, not rank, but radical consistency, not titles, but a testimony. Is there anybody in here today that can say, I'm faithful? I ain't perfect, but God doesn't need me to be perfect, but I'm faithful. I might not have everything I want, but I thank God I have everything I need. You can have my title as long as I still have my testimony. I need some testimony, saints in the day, that can say, if you only knew what I've been through to get to where I am right now, then you would be trying to praise God on my behalf, because I'm not here because of a degree. I'm not here because of a job. I'm not here because of a family line, but I'm here because I serve a God who reaches pick me up. I need some sense in here today. That is where I may not have much, but I am much. I am a child of God. I am the beloved of God. And God's Spirit rests on me. And in me God finds favor. In our text today, we find a young dreamer. We find a man on a journey to live out and to be who God has called him to be. But when we find Joseph, we find Joseph, this Hebrew dreamer. Up until this point, he's had two dreams. God has given him two dreams, and both dreams reflect the fact that God is going to elevate him above his brothers. Now, you may not understand the significance of that, but you have to understand the ancient code of familial conduct. In the ancient code of family practices, the oldest brother was supposed to be the exalted brother, and the youngest brother was supposed to be the servant of the oldest brother. But God gives this man a dream that reverses what society expected, because now Joseph is the younger brother, but God is exalting him over his older brothers. And I love this, that God will give you a dream that will reverse what the expectations are of the society around you. Now, this is a word for people who have dreams, for people who have vision for their life, for people who can see beyond what they can see. Am I talking to any dreamers or visionaries in here today that you can say, I don't walk by sight, but I walk by faith. I don't base my life on what I can see, but I base my life on what nobody else can see, because I have some dreams. And when God gives you dreams, you better thank God that the dream God gives you is greater than the context in which you had that dream, which means God can give you a dream in the midst of depression. God can give you a dream in the midst of unemployment. God can give you a dream in the midst of layoff. God can give you a dream in the midst of rejection. God can give you a dream in the midst of divorce. God can give you a dream in the midst of addiction. God can give you a dream in the midst of failure. I wish somebody understood that God will give you a dream that can contradict your context. Because as long as you trust the dream God gives, oh, I love that. Because you better be careful. This is what Joseph teaches me about with whom you share your dreams. Because everybody's not invested in your dreams the way you are invested in your dreams. But sometimes you have to tell some people, don't hate on the dream God gave me. You act like I came up with the dream. No, I didn't come up with this dream. This dream is too big for me. God gave me this vision. God gave me this dream. You better be careful, because there are people in your life, in your clique, in your family, in your band that will try to undermine you because they can't handle the dream that God is trying to give birth to in your life. Oh, help me today, Jesus. Anybody in here today says that you need to guard your dreams, because everybody doesn't need to know the word that God gives you. Everybody doesn't need to see the vision that God gives you, because sometimes the enemy for your dream is the person closely connected to you, because it was Joseph's brothers that wanted to assassinate him because they did not want his dream to come to fruition. And you need to understand that some of the antagonism that you experience in your life is not because of you, but it's because of the big dream that God wants to give birth to through you. Is there anybody in here today that can say, I thank God for my dreams. I thank God I can see beyond what I see. I thank God there's more to life than what I've been limited to. Because when God gives you a dream, I promise you God is faithful to bring that dream to completion. And you need to start waking up every single morning saying amen to yourself. Before you do anything else, you just say amen to that dream, God. I believe you'll bring that to anybody in here today that can say, I learned how to wake up saying amen. I go to bed saying amen. For it is done. It is so. I don't know how God's going to do it, but amen. I don't know when God's going to do it, but amen. I don't know where God's going to do it, but amen. I need some people in here today that before you put your feet on the carpet or on the floor, you open your eyes and you say amen. It is done. It shall be so. Because you believe that when God gives you a dream, God is faithful to bring it unto completion. In fact, you ought to sound like Langston Hughes. Hold fast to your dreams. For if dreams die, then life is like a broken winged bird that cannot fly. And there are too many people who come to church with broken wings and not able to fly because you allow your dreams to die. It is this visionary of self-exaltation. He has, against his own volition, he's gone from the pasture to the pit. And now he's sitting pretty in the plush, pampering palace of Potiphar's penthouse. And Joseph experiences success. The Bible says that Joseph is sold by the Ishmaelites into the hand of Potiphar, the head of Pharaoh's secret service. And when he gets into Potiphar's house, the Bible indicates that the Lord was with him. And the Lord was with him, and he had great success. And with his success was the attraction of negativity. Can I help somebody in here today? That your success and your promotion and your progress and your achievement will inevitably attract things that want to keep it from moving any farther. And here is this brother, this Hebrew dreamer, this man turned slave into leader, is now sitting in the house of Potiphar. And his success is compromised. But while his success is compromised, he teaches us what it means to survive your success. Let me say three things. I'm going to my seat. The first thing Joseph teaches me about surviving success is that you have to avoid unmerited complacency with where you are. You hear what I said? That if you want to survive your success, you should never become complacent with your status. Here it is, Potiphar, the head of Pharaoh's secret service. He hires the hands of Joseph to commit to handling all of his resources, handling all of his material. And though he rejects the pursuit of Potiphar's wife, I have some issue with how Joseph rejects Potiphar's wife. Because Joseph, he's the only reason why he's here is because the Bible said God was with him. That the only reason why he has success is because God was with him. But look at how he responds to Pharaoh's wife. He says, no, I can't have you, because in this house I have been given charge by your husband, and therefore he has no concern about anything, because he's put me in charge of everything. In fact, he's not greater than me in this house, and he has only kept one thing from me, and that's you. So why would I do this great wickedness and sin against God? Did you hear what I just said? He spends all that time talking about why he doesn't want to disrupt Potiphar, but he only treats God as if God is an afterthought. He only treats God as if God is an appendix to his success, when the reality is God is the cause of his success. The problem with Joseph in this text is that he's given too much credit to Potiphar and not enough credit to God. And can I stop here? That I know you like your job, some of y'all, and that sometimes you get along with your boss, particularly when they give you a promotion. But can I help you here today? You better be careful about where you put the credit, because all the credit actually belongs to God for where you are. And there are too many of us who allow people to embezzle God's glory out of our life, that instead of us giving God the credit for where we are, we want to give other people the credit because we're afraid of offending people in the hopes that they won't remove us from the place where they placed us. But I still believe the words of my ancestors that can't nobody put me anywhere. Only God can elevate me, because if human beings put you somewhere, then they have the power to take you from that place. But you need to learn how to live with the testimony of our ancestors. When they used to come to church, they used to say, giving all glory and honor to God, who's the head of my life. And when you believe that God is the head of your life, before you give anybody else credit for what you have, you give God credit for where you are. If the hip-hop artist can stand on the stage and say, I first want to give glory to God for being the head of my life, I'm trying to figure out why you, who pack this church every Sunday, don't understand that your promotion is not connected to people, but your promotion is connected to God. Oh, bless God's high name. That God is not an afterthought in my life, but God is the source of my life. God is the strength of my life. God is the center of my life, which means everything I have has nothing to do with people, but everything to do with my God. Somebody else may sign the checks, but it's all about God. Somebody else may sign the contract, but it's all about God. Somebody might give you the loan, but it's all about God. I need somebody in here today that can say, I've spent too many years giving the credit to people who don't deserve the credit for my transformation, because the only reason I am who I am and where I am is because I have a God who was with me. Did you hear what Joseph said? Joseph says all these things about Potiphar, and then he says one little line about God, because Joseph is more interested in his position than he is in God's promise. And when you become intoxicated by your position, then you allow God's promise to become a second-rate idea in your life, and you allow God's promise to become in number two to the position that other people give you. And I need somebody in here today that can say, I thank God for my position, but I'm grateful for my promise, because when this position fails, God's promise is still real. Because people can change your title, but only God can keep God's promise. Is there anybody in here today that can say, I'm no longer going to make God an afterthought in my life, but everything I have and everything I earn is because of the grace of God, the omnipresence of God. It's because God refuses to leave me that I am who I am, and I am where I am. I thank God for my position, but I'm grateful for my promise, because God's promise is bigger than human beings' position, because God will tell you, if you lose that job, I can get you another. God will tell you, if you lose that house, I can give you a place to stay. If they repossess that car, I can get you new wheels to drive. Somebody in here ought to thank God that when you run out of resources, you're still in relationship with the source. And when a resource runs out, your source will step in. And when your source steps in, God will remind you, you need to give me the glory. You need to give me the honor. You need to give me the praise. Anybody in here today that can say, I'm giving all glory and honor to God, who's the head of my life? I'm giving praises to God, who's the head of my life. I wish you knew God was the head of your life. God cannot be an afterthought. God has to be at the forefront of your life. Now, he treats God. Now, that is one of the greatest cancers of success, is that you start to give credit for your success to people who God used, and not give credit to your success to the one who caused the success, and that is God. You have to avoid becoming complacent with your station, because look what happens here. We find that Joseph is more interested in his position in Potiphar's house than he is in realizing the promise that God envisioned for him when God gave him that 2 dreams. Let me show you this. Let me show you this. Because Joseph doesn't have the luxury of reading his story the way you have to read his story. That we all don't know what's next in our lives, and we make decisions based on what we don't know about tomorrow. And that's what Joseph does here. Because you all know that Joseph doesn't end up in Potiphar's house, but you all know that Joseph will end up in Pharaoh's house, because you get to read the Bible, and you know in a few more chapters that God will get him to where he wants him to be. But Joseph doesn't know what's next for him. Joseph only knows what's now for him. And in Joseph's mind, Joseph possibly believes that this is the place where God wants him to be. Because remember, God gave him 2 dreams, and for 2 dreams God said, you will be elevated above all of your household. And so Joseph now, who was just in a pit, then was in slavery, and now has authority in a politician's house, Joseph probably believes that this is the fulfillment of his dream, because just a few days earlier he was in a pit left for dead, but now he's sitting in the pit house with Potiphar, and he probably believes that because he's had such a transformation that this is the place where God wants him to be. But that's because he only knows what's now, and he doesn't know what's next. And And let me help you, child of God. You better never become too attached to what's now that you forfeit what's next. Because although your now may be good, your next may be great. And you don't want to forfeit your great on the altar of good, because there are too many people who settle for being good when God is trying to call them to be great. But I don't want to be average. I don't want to be mediocre. I don't want to max out in the middle, but I want to live every single day believing, God, I thank you for where I am today, but I believe you have more for me to do. I believe you have more for me to go. I believe you have more to turn me into. Is there anybody in here today who said, I know too many people who settle for good and they never try to be great? I know too many people who allow when the first good thing comes in their life, they never make space for the next great thing in their life. And so they spend years on a good job. They spend years in a good home. They spend years in a good community. They spend years in a good place. Where God says, if you would just take the brakes off of me, I will move you from good into great. Because it's a sin to be good when God is calling you to be great. It's a sin to be good when God is calling you to be great. Third time is a charm. It's a sin to be good when God is calling you to be great. And I need somebody in here today that can say, I thank God for where I am, but I believe God's not through with me yet. I believe my life is under construction. Bless his high name. That I love where I am, but I believe God has more for me, and God can do more for me. You better not allow yourself to max out in the middle. You better never allow yourself to be okay with okay. But you need to say, God, I thank you for today, but I look forward to what you're going to do for me tomorrow. Because there are too many people who become handcuffed to their last success, that they never make a way for their next great move, for their best move, for their boldest move. I need somebody, anybody, everybody in this place today that can say, I thank you, God, for the good you're doing right now, but I live with open eyes and broad expectations that my next move will be better than my last move. And here in Joseph is living in Potiphar's house, and he wants to hold on to Potiphar's house because he doesn't know that God has something better for him, that God has something stronger for him, that God has something higher for him. He was destined for Pharaoh's house, but he became complacent in Potiphar's house. All I'm trying to say is you need to live with the bold, audacious expectation that when God does a good thing, God can do something better than the good, and God can use you to be great. And don't allow your progress to paralyze you, that you cannot move to the place where God really wants to use you. I'm not so crazy enough to be unappreciative of where I am today, but I'm also not foolish enough to understand that God is still working for me, that God is still moving for me. I thank God for last year's victory, but I believe that greater is just up ahead. I believe that greater is just around the corner. I'm grateful to you, God, that you made a way last time, but I believe with all the power in me and all the faith in me that my next step will be better than my last step. Don't get too attached to the job. Don't get too attached to the house. Don't get too attached to where you are today, because when God gets ready to elevate you higher, God will need you to be willing to walk away from the good in order to embrace the great. There's some jobs you got to say goodbye to because God's elevating you. There's some people you got to say see you later to because God has more for you. There's some things you got to put aside because God has more for you, and you cannot become too intoxicated with your last victory that you don't make space for God to do something new through you and do something new for you. Is there anybody in here on a Sunday morning that can say, I don't want to be good when I have a chance to be great? I don't want to sacrifice my life on the altar of good when God is calling me to be great. That's what Jay-Z said, just let me be great. If God wants me to be great, I'm busting the doors down, I'm cracking the ceilings, because I believe that when he It's possible. He does not give the glory to God because he forgets that although he is in a good place, that this may not be the place where God ultimately wants him to be, because he's settling for Potiphar's house, because he does not understand that God wants him to get to Pharaoh's house. Secondly, oh my goodness, secondly, you have to avoid unchecked complications in your strategy. Because some of us mess up because we have the wrong strategy for handling adversity. That instead of us facing our problems, we run away from our problems. We give our problems so much power in our lives. Instead of us standing strong in the face of opposition and lies, we allow the lies to take over our lives. Now come on, I know somebody in here knows what it means to be lied on. I know you know what it means to be the subject of somebody's confusion, that you know what it means for other people to try to write stories about you, and you never had the opportunity to tell your side of the story because you are running away from your problems instead of standing firm in your problems. Now let's be clear, Joseph's predicament, remember Joseph was in Potiphar's house, but when we end this text, Joseph is in the prison, and Joseph is in the prison because Joseph, not because Joseph did what Potiphar's wife wanted him to do, but Joseph is in the prison because Joseph ran away from his problems and left a piece of himself behind. And because Joseph was in such a hurry to get out of there, instead of him standing up for himself, he left a piece of him that became incriminating. The Bible says she reached out to him, grabbed his cloak, and he ran away. And she used his cloak as evidence that he had done something wrong, although he hadn't done anything wrong. She lied on him, and he never got the time to share his side of the story because he was too busy running instead of standing up for his identity and standing up for his integrity. Now let me pause right here, because although some of you all have never been lied on personally, and I find that hard to believe, all of us in this room who are sun-kissed and live in the American empire knows what it means to become an existential victim to a lie, because this country has been telling lies about us since we got here. You do know that slavery was built on a lie. A lot of black men were lynched because of lies. Children are being miseducated because of lies. We know that the prisons are built based on a lie, that we do more crime than any other community does. But I need somebody to know I'm no longer accepting these lies as true, because you may lie on me, but you won't hear from me, because I got some stuff to say to defend myself, because I'm not who you say I am. I'm not what you say I am. I did not do what you said I did. Freddie Gray is dead, and the police officer gets to go home free because of a lie. A 6-year-old girl in Michigan, Ayanna Jones, is dead after a police raid because of some lies, and nobody went to jail for her death. I refuse to live another day allowing the lies of people to dictate my life and to drive my life. But for the rest of my life, I'm going to stand strong. And if you got something to say about me, then you're going to hear my side of the story too. Whether you like it or not, I write my own story. That's why I'm afraid of Donald Trump, because I know who I am and I know what I stand for. Is there anybody in here on a Sunday morning that can say I'm not running away from my problems anymore? I've spent too many years on the run. I've spent too many years as a fugitive to my destiny because I allowed people to control me. But I'm writing my own story for the rest of my life. You can say whatever you want to say about me, and I'm going to stand there and I'm going to take it with my feet planted, with my back erect, with my head held high, because I know who I am. Is there anybody in here today that can say I'm not running from my problems, but I'm going to face my problems? She can say what she wants to say, but I'm standing standing right here. He can do what he wants to do, but I'm going to stand right here. They can try whatever tricks they want to try, because I'm going to stay right here, because you may not know me, but I know me. Joseph finds himself in prison because he runs away from his problems instead of facing his problems. And the problem is because Joseph was more interested in his position than he was in the promise. Joseph was more interested in what he saw than what he was seeing than he was in what he saw, because Joseph still believes that Potiphar has power over him because he doesn't understand that it's not Potiphar that's been elevating him. It's been God that's been elevating him. And it's the dream that God gave him that needs to remind him, you don't have to run from people because I've got your back. You don't have to run from your troubles because I've got your back. I need somebody in here today that can say, I'm no longer running because of what I see, because I remember what I saw. And when God gave me a vision for my life, he never told me it wouldn't be easy. He never told me it would be flowerful, but he told me he'd be right there with me. And because I believe what I saw, even when I can't believe what I see, I trust God will do exactly what God says. You better stop living according to your eyes and what you think people can do to you, and what you think the system can do to you, and what you think the church can do to you. And you need to start declaring with boldness, I'm a child of God, and there's too much power in me for me to run from you. In fact, if you knew who I was, you would be running from me, because the God is with me. The Spirit of God is behind me. Oh, bless his high name. And when God is behind you, you can declare no weapon formed against me shall prosper. When God is behind you, you can say I'm more than a conqueror. When God is behind you, you can declare greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Is there anybody here on a Sunday afternoon that can say I'm not running anymore? I spent too many years running to drinks and running to addiction and running to sex and running to nonsense and running to dead-end jobs and running to dead people and running to small-minded people and running to small plans. But for the rest of my life, I'm running to God. In fact, I'm going to stand strong and say, bring on your best shot, because I'm proof for this. Bring on your best shot, because I was made for this. I was made for this battle. Oh, I need some warriors in the room today. I need some soldiers in the room today. That you can say, I was made for this. Bring on your lives. I was made for this. Bring on your attacks. I was made for this. Bring on your mischief. I was made for this. Bring on your deceit. I was made for this. Bring on your weapons. I was made for this. Oh, God bless his high name. When you stand in the authority of God and you believe the dream that God gave you, you will risk it all in the name of your God and in the name of your dreams. Sometimes you got to slow it down and let your enemies know you're not chasing me anywhere. Sometimes you got to slow down and start walking the authority of who you are. I know who I am. I'm Willie, Dwayne, Francois, and you ain't got jurisdiction over here. I know who I am. I'm a child of God. I'm the beloved of God. I'm the son of the Most High God. Try me if you want to. I know who I am. No devil in hell never try to get close to me, because I know my identity and I know my strength. And so you need to be running instead of me running. And so instead of me running from you, it's time for me to chase you out of my life. You need to chase some stuff out of your life. You need to chase some people out of your life, some habits out of your life, some things out of your life. Somebody ought to say hallelujah. I'm chasing it out of my life. Stop running from your problems and slow down and chase them. Because if you lose, you can still say, at least I died knowing who I was. If you fail, you can still say, at least I gave it my best and I didn't allow them to shape me, but I learned to be who I am.
But finally, not only do you have to avoid unnecessary complacency with your status, not only do you have to alleviate unchecked complications in your strategy, but finally, if you want to survive success, you have to accept the unfailing commitment of the sovereign. That you have to embrace no matter where you are in life. You embrace the fact that even if I can't stay here, I trust that the same God that was with me up there will be with me down here. Now we talk about the omnipresence of God and how God is everywhere present at the same time. Then that means when you are up, God is with you. And when you are down, God is with you. I love the unfolding creative agenda of God, that God will remind me that even when I find myself in low places, God is with me. That's what the Bible said, didn't it? It said that Joseph was in the prison, but the Spirit of God was with Joseph. And because the Spirit of God was with Joseph, he gave Joseph success in the prison the same way he gave him success in Potiphar's house. Now, I don't have much more than that, because that really should have blessed you on its own. That the same God that was with him in Potiphar's house is the same God that's with him in the prison. The same God that got him out of the pasture and out of the pit and out of slavery is still with him in the midst of his prison, which means even if God does not turn my situation around, I thank God that God is with me even when I don't want to be with myself. I think that God walks with me even when I cannot walk with myself. Now, I must be talking to some people who've never had some downturns in your life. You've never had some dips in your plans. You've never had some disruptions, though. You've never had some detours in your life. But if you've had some detours in your life, you ought to be able to thank God that the same God that was with you in a high place will also be with you in a low place. That the same God that was with Joseph in Potiphar's house is with Joseph when he gets to the prison. Now, this is why I don't get mad about unexpected changes in my life, because I love God's presence more than I love human promotion. I love God's presence more than I love resources people can give me. I love God's presence more than I love anything that the world can ever give me, because I still believe, like my ancestors used to say, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. And if the world didn't give it, then that means the world cannot take it away. I need somebody to thank your God that God is with you on the downbeat of your life. That God is with you when you don't want to be with you. That you have a God who walks with you and talks with you and tells you that no matter where you find yourself, I'll be right there with you, because God has prison ministry in the same way God was with him in Potiphar's house. And you want to thank God that God has prison ministry, because if God has prison ministry, then God also has cancer ministry, and God also has unemployment ministry, and God also has diabetes ministry, and God also has hypertension ministry, and God also has HIV/AIDS ministry. I need somebody in here today that can say, no matter what turns in my life, my God is with me in divorce. My God is with me in foreclosure. My God is with me when they repossess the car. My God is with me in the midst of addiction. My God is with me. I need somebody, anybody, to celebrate the presence of your God, because he'll never leave you alone. That you serve a God who is with you when you're up, and he's with you when you're down. He's with you when you're happy, and he's with you when you're depressed, because your God is not afraid of your contact. Your God is not afraid of your sicknesses. Your God is not afraid of your failures. Your God is not afraid of your flaws, but your God will walk with you and will rock you in the middle of his arms. Somebody always say, yes, I serve a risen Savior who's in the world today. I'm walking with him, and he's reminding me that I am a conqueror, and that God reminds me that I'm more than a conqueror, because if God be for you, who can be against you? If God be for you, who can be against you? If God be for you, who can be against you? I still believe that my God is with me, and there is nothing that can derail me. When God is with me, there is nothing that can hurt me. When God is with me, when I'm down, he's with me. When I'm bruised, he's with me. When I'm wounded, he's with me. When I'm rejected, he's with me. When I'm depressed, he's with me. When I'm mistaken, he's with me. Because people may forget about me, but my God remembers me, and my God sees me. I may be down, but my God will reach down, clean me up, he picks me up, turns me around, he'll place your feet on solid ground. Yes, yes, won't he do it? Won't he do it? I still trust God, because he won't. I said he won't. I said he won't. He won't let me down. People may let you down, but God won't let you down. Government may let you down, but God won't let you down. Family may let you down, but God won't let you down. Church may let you down, but God won't let you down. Deacons may let you down, but God won't let you down. The pastor may let you down, but God won't let you down. Your car may let you down, but God won't let you down. People will, but God won't. So celebrate your God. Celebrate your God. Celebrate. He's faithful. He's faithful. He's faithful. Celebrate your faithful God. Mornings, come mornings, new mercy. I see all I've ever needed. God's hand. Somebody say your hand. God's hand provides. God is faithful. He won't ever fail. He will never fail. Say yeah. Say yeah. I miss y'all last week. Say yeah. Won't he make a way for you? Won't he open doors for you? Won't he provide for you? Won't he give you joy? Won't he give you peace? Won't he heal your body? Won't he repair your heart? Say yes. Say yes. When I think of the goodness of Jesus and all he's done for me, my soul, my soul, my soul, my soul, cry out, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. God, the same God that was with him in Potiphar's house is with him in the prison. But I don't want you to miss this. He's not in just any prison. The Bible says he's in the king's prison. Did y'all hear that? He's not just in any prison. He's in the king's prison. You remember where I told you he's supposed to be? He settled for Potiphar's house. But God wants to get him to Pharaoh's house. And you know what the king's prison is? 2 levels underneath the king's palace. Which means he was closer to his destiny in the prison than he ever was when he was in Potiphar's house. And I need somebody in here today to say your failure actually set you up the way you were supposed to be. Because what you thought was a setback, it was really a setup. That sometimes you have to fall in order to get to the place where you need to be. I need some failures in here today. I need some people that I made some mistakes. I made some dips. I messed up. But it was my setback that set me up for my comeback. It was my setback that set me up for a comeback. And look at you. You're a living, breathing, moving testimony that ain't nobody do you like Jesus. Ain't nobody do you like the Lord. Thank God was over, but you're still here. Somebody say, yeah. I'm still here. 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 Thank God was over, but I'm still here. Thank God I was done, but I'm still here. Get back, get up, come back, 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 get back, get up, come back. The doors of the church are open. Come on, we're standing all over the building. The doors of the church are open.